What's up, Gaming Nation? We are back with another 7 Days to Die. And today I am teaching you guys the basics of mining. We're going to check out all the different ores in Alpha 19, and I'm going to show you guys where you can find them, what you can do with them, and what they look like. So here they are. Okay, probably the most basic of the resources, and if you played this game for more than 5 minutes, you've probably already found this, but the boulders, or rocks, are another mining material, which is actually really useful in the early game stages, and sometimes even the late game stages you need some rocks or some stones as well. The stone is something that personally I don't really mine for after like the first week or so, because mining for other items such as iron, lead, etc. is going to give you stone. So that's definitely not a huge issue. But if you guys notice, different from the other nodes in the game, the stone does not have a vein below it. So for the stone, you'd have to look around and probably find another stone on your way, for instance right down here. But don't worry, stone is a huge thing that's a part of the game. It's everywhere. It's usually not that hard to find. So stones is definitely something that there is tons of recipes for. Some of the most notable things is the campfire, of course. You're going to get that on day 1. You can make cobblestone rocks out of soil and stone, which allows you to then make flagstone bricks, which is really nice, especially for upgrading your base. The land claim block, and the blunderbuss ammo, which could be a good thing in the beginning levels. Personally, I feel like you find enough blunderbuss ammo that you don't have to make it, but it's definitely an option. Some of the other items is it's required in a lot of the forges, other things like that. You can do gravel. Obviously, all of the tools such as the stone axe, the stone shovel, stone arrows, stone bolts, stone sledgehammer, stone spear, all of those items obviously include stone. But also, one of the other cool things is in the forge, you can actually break down the stone as well in there. A lot of things, there's not a lot in here in the forge that requires stone to make, but a lot of things require a little bit of stone to have. So for instance, you can make cement, which is my personal thing that I always use is my forge to make cement. But the number one thing, in my opinion, for the stone is using the cement mixer. You can make crushed sand out of stone, which is very useful if you're a player that's not in the desert or you don't know where a desert is. You can still make your crushed sand. One of the big requirements to then make concrete mix. You have to have the stone, the cement, and the sand, which all three can come from the stone. Obviously, the stone, you take the stone, make crushed sand, take the stone, make cement, and then you can make concrete mix. So a lot of stones are going to be needed. And that's pretty much it for the stones. The next ore is oil shell. You'll see this, it's rainbow colored, it's pretty cool looking, and you can only find this one in the desert, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. With mining this, just like most of the other rocks, you're getting stone and then also oil shell every time you hit the stone. And of course, just like the other rocks as well, if you mine the area right below it, it's going to give you more oil shell. Keep going all the way down until you're completely out of the resource. This one's a lot easier to see when you're mining, even if it's kind of darker, just because obviously of all the different colors. And while you guys are mining around, in and around this oil shell, you're also going to get probably a lot of sand because obviously it's in the desert. So oil shell, if you guys are in a workbench, for instance, the biggest thing that people are going to use oil shell for is creating gas or gas can. And that is a 1-to-1 ratio. One oil shell gives you one gas, which is amazing. It's definitely something to think about. There's also mixing with other items can give you asphalt, which a lot of people probably don't use, but it's something that you could use. And you can also make oil with using oil shell and an empty can, which is also another good thing. Now, if you make gas in the, if you're actually trying to make gas in the chemistry station, is where you need to make gas, and it actually goes pretty fast. And like I said, it is a 1-to-1, so 150 oil shell turns into 150 gas. And that's it for the oil shell. The next and probably the most popular ore is going to be the iron ore. So this is what it looks like. It is found in all different areas, and it's probably one of the most used and also one of the most heavy resources that you can use in this game. It's pretty much used for almost everything. And just like everything else, even though you can't see it, once you start hitting the area under the ore, you're going to find more. The iron is actually a pretty sufficient thing as well. There's a good amount of stuff in there. You also get stone every hit, just like with most of the other ores. And this one's a little bit harder to see when you're mining, when you actually get down in there, but it's not too bad. So the biggest thing that you use with iron is probably going to be the forge. So in the forge, a lot of things are made out of iron. You can make iron. You can make some items straight out of iron by themselves. So for instance, the iron hatch you can make in your inventory, and then also on a workbench. You can make the robotic turret ammo, which is really nice. The barbed wire fence. Apparently, you can make knuckle wraps. You can make armor, especially depending on your different skill sets that you have. All different sorts of armor. The landmine, different types of ammo. The pressure plate mine. You can make a spotlight. And just pretty much anything and everything out of iron. In the forge itself, another useful thing is to break down that with clay to make forged iron. Forged iron can then be used to make a bunch of different things as well. And as well, the iron is actually how you make steel. Once you have a crucible in your tool belt or in your forge, then you're able to make steel out of the iron and a little bit of clay, which is really, really nice for the end game. Some of the more common things that you guys are going to be using the iron for is nails, the short iron pipes, like here. It's in a lot of different crafting things that you guys would make. The arrow slits, iron bars, for instance. You can also use the iron to upgrade things, like for instance your wood structures. You can use iron to upgrade the doors or some of the things to iron as well. Of course, all of the different iron things that you have here, you can also make the rebar frames, which is a very quick way to build a base out of concrete, because the rebar frames you can use with concrete to make the second stage concrete, which is very, very nice if you have the iron to spare. Also, one of my personal favorites is making iron arrowheads as soon as possible, especially in the first like 3 to 5 days in the game. If you have some leftover iron, definitely making iron heads, iron arrowheads, iron darts, and we already said nails, and then also steel arrowheads is made with iron as well. And then a lot of the necessary tools that you would need for your cooking stove and other items like that is made in the forge as well. So the cooking grill, the cooking pot, and then the actual anvil itself for your forge, which is a good thing to have. And again, like I mentioned, you can turn these into the ingots or the forged iron in this game, and this is going to be used to make a lot of different things like the bucket, an iron door, the ladders, the spike traps, which is pretty good, and then any of the metal furniture, again, the iron pipes, and it's actually used in a lot of machine guns and or a lot of the gun crafting and a lot of repair kits, which is a huge thing if you look at repair kits. Repair kits is probably the number one thing that I personally use for forged iron for. That plus duct tape is a repair kit, which is super useful. And that's about it for the iron. Another note that you're going to find in certain biomes, so this is coal, not to be confused with stone, which does look very similar, but you can kind of tell how it's got kind of a black texture and more of a texture than the stone does. So coal is another node that will give you coal and then also stone as well. And once you break it apart, you're going to see that it does have a vein right below it to be able to get more out of that thing. One of the biggest uses for coal is going to be to make gunpowder. For gunpowder, you can actually just make it on yourself, which is something good with coal and nitrate powder, taking 2 of each to make 1 gunpowder. Or if you have a chemistry station, it gives you coal with nitrate powder as a 1-to-1, which is definitely a little bit smarter to use that. But the gunpowder can also be used in pure mineral water. It can be used in the wheel recipe, and then Also, you can use it to make the water purifier mod, which is kind of a neat thing as well. Kind of a side tip for the coal, if you are actually looking for coal but you can't find a coal rock, if you happen to find a burnt biome such as this, these little burnt embers, if you break them apart, if you notice in the bottom corner, we are getting a little bit of coal. So you will get coal if you break these embers. And that's it for the coal. The next ore that we're going to look at is nitrate powder. This is probably one of the most easily recognizable ores as far as the node goes in the game, because it is bright, it looks like diamonds, and it's sparkly. It looks very, very nice, right? And it's definitely one of those pointy things that makes a point. Just like the other nodes, if you still try to mine below it, it does have an ore vein. This one is a little bit hard to see as well, in my opinion, once you actually start mining it, just because it is a little bit, it looks like the stone, but if you can make out the difference, it's pretty easy to find. Also, this is one that gives you stone as well as the itself, which is nitrate powder in this case. The nitrate powder, much like the coal, is used in gunpowder. It is used as a 1-to-1 if you have a chemistry station, or a 2-to-1 if you're using it by yourself. It's also used in the farming plots. It's also used in antibiotics and herbal antibiotics. So it doesn't have a lot of uses, but if you're making your own gunpowder and your own ammunition, it's definitely something that you have to have a really good amount of resources on. And that's it for the nitrate powder. Alright guys, so here we have an lead mine. So this is what the lead looks like in the game, on the surface at least, these rocks. And they give you stone and then also a little bit of lead. And then just like all the other ones, if you start mining below it, you're going to get a few different nodes of lead below it, and keep going down until you can't find any more. When you're mining it below as well, it's giving you about 1 stone per hit, at least for me at this point, and then it's giving you about 3 to 5 lead per hit as well. And again, that all depends on the skills that you guys have. So with the lead, some of the recipes that you guys can do with lead is going to be the car battery. That's something that takes a little bit of stuff. Definitely something that I would personally not recommend necessarily using, but that's definitely an option. So some of the items that you can craft in the forge is also bulletproof glass blocks. The glass blocks, you can craft buckshot. Bullet tips are probably one of the most well-used things as well. And then also the rocket tips if you're into explosions. The business glass, which is ugly by the way. And that's pretty much it for the use for lead. So here's our lead. If we start mining, we want to mine straight down. So here's more lead. And a good thing that you guys can do is, if you have a frame, just throw a frame at the top. So when the zombies walk by, they're not going to fall on you, but also they'll be breaking that block for a few seconds if they try to attack you, if they know where you are, before they can actually get to you. So if you want to start mining, mine straight down until the ore is gone. So there's still ore, there's still ore, there's still ore. And then now the ore doesn't really go out. So then I want to start mining out towards wherever I'm mining. So then if I look here, this is a whole bunch of lead all throughout here, and my hole is right here. What I like to do as well is I'll put another block wherever my up is, and then when I can come over here, I can just take up my block, come back down, nerd pull your way all the way back up to the top. Also, another tip for you guys. Personally, because I'm OCD on a lot of things, I will like to do straight lines for everything I do, and clear out certain areas. But if you're like me, if you're not like me and you don't necessarily do that, when you're actually in here mining and you start mining something out, you can have cave-ins, which means they're going to fall on you and they will hurt your character. Obviously, a lot of times it's not that big of a deal. Usually the cave-ins aren't really huge. But for instance, if I start mining some of these, I can make one collapse on me eventually. So like in that case, I purposely did collect like 50 lead. 50 is not bad. So I purposely made it to where it would fall on me. If it fell on you, it usually doesn't do a lot of damage, but you can lose out on some of your ore, which is definitely not something that you want to do. So one thing that I like to do to kind of combat this is go ahead and put down frames, especially if you think the place is getting a little unstable. If you just put down a couple frames somewhere, usually that will stop a lot of the cave-ins, and then you can kind of manage yourself on where you want to mine. Because at the end of the day, this was one lead mine, and look at all of the lead that I'm going to be able to do down here. So I'm going to have plenty. So use those supports just as support across an area where you think it's going to be getting a little dicey, and that'll help you from having cave-ins. Another tip for you guys is obviously in here I can see that there is, looks like coal or possibly iron right here. Actually, that might be some more of that might be more nitrate, but this block right here is sand. I can tell by how it sounds. So using the pick, it's going to be fine, but on clay and sand, you want to use the shovel. It's going to get it done faster. And then whenever you hear that thud, obviously that's when you know, then you need to pull out your pick to actually get whatever the next item is, which in our case looks like it is coal, which is nice. And another thing that happens a lot of times is you might start a mine out like we did here with lead, and then we ran into some coal, which is awesome. It's always good. It's always a nice surprise. So the next tip, again, because this is a beginner one, I want to leave this tip, and this one is very easy to see. I will show you guys, I'll demonstrate. That versus if you're in sneak mode, wrong button. If you're in sneak mode, it definitely makes a big difference for the zombies that are trying to find you. Depending on how far you are down, sometimes they won't be able to get you. But I personally, if I'm going to be doing a huge mining expedition, going to be down there for a while, go into sneak mode. It does inhibit you from, running a little bit slower, but for the most part, you're not going to be running around a lot in your little mine shaft. So keep in sneak mode. It'll help you be undetected, and then also kind of help you keep some of your stamina as well. So next, I want to show you guys another tip that I like to give to everybody when you're mining, especially if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to go mine for a few hours, or I really need a lot of this resource. So if you plan to be mining for a little bit, take some drinks with you. Even though you might not need the drink itself for your water, some of the best things to use are coffee, because it gives you a stamina regen of 20%, which is really nice. The yucca juice gives you a 15% stamina regen. And the red tea gives you a 15% stamina regen as well. So all of these, if you look at them, they last for about 4 minutes or so, 3 to 4 minutes, which are really good drinks that I personally almost always bring with me if I'm mining, just to have that extra stamina. Another awesome thing that you can bring with you, if you have it, or if you have the ability to make it or buy it, is the blackstrap coffee. The blackstrap coffee gives you the water, gives you cold resist if you have to worry about it, but it also has a 6-minute duration of a 25% stamina regen, which is huge. So if you're using that, that's definitely something that you think about bringing with you. Now, this wouldn't truly be a guide if I didn't show you guys everything. So one of the first things that you want to look at whenever you guys are thinking about mining is your skills. That's definitely something that you guys want to look at. The two main ones are under the strength tree all the way at the bottom. So you have Miner 69er. So this one actually dictates how much block damage you do. So it gives you percentage of block damage the higher you do it. And then it also gives you the ability to make tools, to make iron tools. So if you need to make your own tool, that's definitely something that you can look at if you already have a forge and all that kind of items. So some of the best ones to have, in my opinion, the Miner 69er, I would always go around level 3 with these. Unless you plan to mine a lot, I wouldn't go much higher than maybe 2 or 3, but it definitely gives you a pretty good amount of boost. So like the level 3, for instance, lets you craft quality 4 tools and increases your block damage by 90% with an axe, pick, chainsaw, auger, whatever it is. So mining and wood cutting, all those things, gives you a huge boost if you have the level 3. The next skill is Motherload. Motherload is exactly what it sounds like, just giving you more harvest, more resources for every swing that you do. So for instance, let me show you guys. So right now I'm hitting this lead mine. I get 1 stone, 3 lead. Now, if I want to go in and purchase the Motherload, let's purchase just 1 level, and then we're going to get 1 stone still. We get 4 lead. Let's buy level 2, which according to this is giving us 40% more. So then we're still getting 4, but every once in a while we're getting 5. So if you notice, it's getting 4 or 5. So even going from 3 lead per swing to 5 lead per swing, after an hour worth of mining, it's going to make some really big resources. And whenever you guys are actually finished, right now you see I'm getting about 4 or 5 per swing. Whenever you actually finish the node in just a second, let's let that go away. So instead of getting like 3 or 5 like every other swing, when I swing that load, I get a bonus 25 or however many you guys are getting based on your skills. So finishing a node is definitely just as important as mining in general. So if I'm going here, so I finished most of this node. I got 13 stone and 44 iron, or 44 lead. Now if I take my last swing, I'm going to get 6 stone and 25 lead, which is like a 25% increase from what I got for the entire thing. So definitely finish your nodes when you start them. Alright guys, so that is all the ores that we have. We've went through all of them. Here they are again, just for you guys' viewing pleasure. And I want to tell you guys thank you so much for watching the video. If you guys learned anything, please drop a like. If you guys love the video, consider subscribing and check out some other videos that we have on the channel for beginners guides and guides in general. Peace.